After trying a solo run with Smeargle in Pokemon Gold a little while ago, I was interested to see how the Pooch would perform in HeartGold, SoulSilver. While Smeargle's stats nor its sketchability would change, even the trainers we face wouldn't, the moves it could potentially learn would change. Throw in some other changes like the modified gym leader levels of the post game, especially Red, and Smeargle's Groundhog Day of a run may just prove challenging and an opportunity to compare how this run and the previous run differ in terms of execution and tactics. But wind it back just a second, because for those not familiar, like Wobbuffet and Shedinja, Smeargle's a gimmick Pokemon. However, unlike those two, Smeargle exists as a blank slate of a Pokemon. Smeargle is a normal type Pokemon whose move Sketch allows it to permanently learn the last move used against it. In theory, Smeargle can learn any move in the game, save for a few like Chatter, Struggle and some others. Like the previous run, it requires a little planning ahead and to be aware of our restrictions. One restriction is you learn Sketch every 10 levels by being able to only copy moves used against you, and by not necessarily knowing what move your opponent has and will use, you're kind of playing a game of chance, and you're limited by the moves opponents used against you. It's not like they're all out there spamming Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower and whatever else, but some are. And the final thing is Smeargle as a Pokemon is not great. For old time's sakes, I will quickly go over Smeargle's stats. It's got a base of 250, it shares the same base stats as other heavy hitters like Hoppip and Bidoof. Smeargle has the same base attacking stat as Magikarp, Shuckle and Feebas. The only area that Smeargle air quotes excels in is its speed. And we have only 10 uses of Sketch. The last opportunity to get a move is at level 91. However, you can go to the Move Tutor and Move Relearner to forget and then relearn Sketch. You just need heart scales. So as it's a solo run, the rules I usually use are slightly modified. Number one is we can only use Smeargle in battle. It's a solo run after all, but we can capture other Pokemon for HM Butler purposes. Number two is we can't use items in battle. Held items are fine. However, I will rescind that rule in cases where I need to learn a move because it gets real annoying when you don't. And number three, this isn't a minimum battles run. We can battle as many people we like because we will need those levels. Our game starts off pretty normal, waking up and eventually choosing a Pokemon. For this run, as I did in the last, I've replaced Totodile with Smeargle, simply because Chikorita's evolutions tend to be tankier, therefore more annoying. I do give Smeargle perfect IVs because it's awful, and to take on Red we need all the help we can get. It's not long before our path from the original Gold Smeargle run diverges. Previously, though we couldn't get a move, we could use Struggle, paired with a berry, to survive the first rival battle. However, because Smeargle is faster than the Pokemon we're facing, and we can't use items at full health or without an ailment, we're at a loss. Not only that, berries are frustratingly inaccessible until you've dealt with Whitney and the girl by the Sudowoodo gives you the berry pot or whatever. So I instead choose to lose to the rival. This doesn't affect much except our ego, but we'll be getting our first move soon. And it's from our very first trainer battle against youngster Joey, and here's Rattata.
Your Pokemon's soul is mine. Joey.
Though it may technically violate the no items in battle rule, I'm going to give myself a pass in this instance as we need a move to progress. We throw a Pokeball, it obviously doesn't catch the Rattata, but we can learn Quick Attack. We see another divergence once we reach Violet City. In the OG games, you could skip Bellsprout Tower, meaning you would miss out on EXP, and you also gain Flash there. This time, however, it's mandatory, and we won't say no to more XP. While Smeargle often runs out of Quick Attack on its journey up the tower, we do occasionally run into Ghastly, and it's from Ghastly we can learn a new move with relative ease, Hypnosis. However, what you have to keep in mind in these types of runs is the penalty if you choose the wrong move. If the move doesn't work out, we're stuck leveling up and sacrificing the next sketch slot to rectify our mistakes. I choose to keep that Hypnosis in my back pocket for now. It isn't long, however, until I realise our move pool is rather shallow. I referenced in my previous run, but you can see Fluffy before you face Falkner, nice. But what's not so nice is the fact that Fluffy only learns Thundershock at level 10, making it useless. Despite only having Quick Attack, I decided to try my luck with Falkner. And it's only a few battles in where it became pretty evident that at our level, with our pathetic stats, we're not getting the victory. Pidgey will constantly use Sand Attack, to the point where even if we defeat it, we're missing against Pidgeotto. Not only that, Pidgeotto has Roost. Combine that with our pathetic damage output and it's clear we need some levels and another move. Hypnosis it is. It's only when we've leveled up to 15 and have Hypnosis are we in a better position to face Falkner. With the Pidgey, it makes the most sense to focus on taking it out as soon as possible without worrying about putting it to sleep. At lower levels, our damage ranges on Quick Attack were inconsistent, often doing less than half of its HP. Now at 15, there's more consistency, allowing us to take it out in 2 hits and suffering 1 tackle. For Pidgeotto, we try to put it to sleep and then miss, we take another tackle, we then miss again, and get hit with another tackle. Finally, 3rd time's the charm. Pidgeotto falls asleep. We then lay on the Quick Attacks thick and fast, making Rattata and Joey proud. Even when Pidgeotto wakes up, its attack misses, allowing us to finish it off. We can now proceed towards Union Cave and Azalea Town. I had 2 things in the back of my mind from my last playthrough, Ember and Peck. Last time around, I went with Peck, a glorious move with an attack power of 35. I originally regretted sketching the move, having forgotten there was a trainer in Union Cave with a Vulpix that knew Ember. Ember was a more powerful move, 40 damage. Clearly that was the smarter option, so I earmarked a couple of trainers. The plan was to avoid them in order to save their moves if I needed them. This simply means not getting into a battle with them. These trainers were Fisherman Ralph, who had Goldeen with Peck. I also outlined Birdkeeper Peter, who had a Spearow. All I had to do was not fight these trainers, but that proved too difficult. I ran into Birdkeeper Peter, so I reset. Then I realised I hadn't saved in quite some time. So I did everything again, fought trainers, ran to Pokemon, picked up items, until I was back near the Pokemon Center. Then I went to Union Cave, and there I met a trainer who had an Onix. This battle would take forever. So I reset. Then I realised I hadn't saved in quite some time. So I did everything again. Back to Ember and Peck. I have Peck outlined with 2 trainers just in case, but I want Ember. Those 5 points of damage will be worth it. I enter Union Cave, avoid the Onix, and more importantly, avoid fighting the Fire Breather located in the southeasterly portion of the map. Easy enough to do, you just walk to the left. But I didn't do that, so I reset. Then I realised, no, not this time, I did just walk to the left. Continuing with the game's story events, we head to Azalea and deal with Slowpoke well. Quick Attack and Hypnosis are still enough to see us through to the end. However, we're still not at level 21 yet, meaning we don't have a free sketch slot. And we're in no position to tackle Bugsy or the rival given our lack of Ember, so in the meantime, we can level up on gym trainers. While we're still lacking after Bugsy's gym, I roam around for a while, revisiting some trainers I purposely skipped. Eventually, we're at level 21 and ready for Ember. I return to Union Cave, and instead of going left, I go right. The Fire Breather has 2 Pokemon. The first is Coughing, so the second must be Vulpix. I swiftly defeat the Coughing, then I wait for Vulpix. But it's another Coughing. So there is no Vulpix? Because there aren't any other Fire Breathers in the cave. They used to be bunched together. Was the second one removed? Something didn't feel right. It wasn't the end of the world, there's always Peck, but those 5 points of extra damage. I kept looking and remembered that north was a new direction. And in minimum battles runs, I avoid going that way because of a trainer. So I head up there, and there they are. Fire Breather number 2. And Fire Breather number 2 has the Vulpix. We engage in battle, and I keep spamming Hypnosis, hoping it won't hit, but it keeps hitting. Then, when Vulpix is awake, it tends to keep going for Tail Whip because we're at a higher level. Eventually, it uses Ember, we use Sketch, another Soul Harvested. Now we'll try a look at Bugsy to see if choosing Ember over Peck with its massive 5 attack power difference is what makes our life easier. It does not. Ember does like what? 1/8 of damage against Scyther. And with Smeargle's lower special attacking stat, Peck probably was the smarter option. It means at level 21 we're not getting past Scyther anytime soon, which means it's rivaling time. However, we're still at level 21, and unlike in Gen 2, this Ghastly is cursed. And while we can get lucky with our use of Hypnosis and attacks to eventually get through to Bayleaf, its combination of Poison Powder and Synthesis make it super tanky. I gain a level and try again at 22. This time, we're able to put Ghastly to sleep and defeat it with several uses of Ember. We use the same approach for Zubat until we're through to Bayleaf. The key to success is simply using Hypnosis until the Bayleaf is asleep, then pile on the Embers, hoping Bayleaf doesn't wake up too quick to poison you or heal itself. When we return to Bugsy at a higher level, our luck fares a little better this time. After an opening Ember, we put Scyther to sleep and keep hitting it with Ember. This approach works well for the most part. Despite Scyther activating its berry, we come so close to knocking it out. But when it does wake up, we get the inevitable super potion from Bugsy, taking us right back to square one. However, thanks to some good luck with the Hypnosis and Ember, we are eventually able to knock it out without taking too much damage in the meantime. Then, the rest of its Pokemon are a breeze. As it was in my previous Smeargle run, we're starting to get access to a few more interesting moves. I decided to go down the same route I did as in Gen 2, by learning Low Kick from the trainer with the Mankey on Route 34. However, this may or may not have been a mistake. Because from Gen 2, Low Kick changed from being a 50 power move with an accuracy of 90 plus a 30% chance of flinching. That move was baller and saved me countless times. Now, however, Low Kick has 100% accuracy, but its damage is dependent on the weight of the Pokemon. Generally, it means we won't see returns from it until we're later in the game, and Pokemon are generally larger due to their later evolution stages. I did not consider this at the time. Either way, we grabbed the radio card, tended to forget that in Gen 2, then fight some trainers in the area in preparation for Whitney. Low Kick will work in our favour against the upcoming Miltank, but not so much Clefairy. I decided to give Whitney a shot at level 26, mainly to see how much we'd need to level up ourselves. Against the Clefairy, it gets off an Ice Fang and it instantly freezes us, pretty clutch. Next time in, I start to notice that Smeargle sometimes isn't attacking because it's infatuated. Then I remembered that we no longer have Rollout to contend with, but Attract from both Pokemon. Honestly, it's probably more annoying because I don't expect Miltank to be much trouble thanks to Low Kick, but first we need to get Low Kick, and that does require leveling up. After a few more pointless exploratory battles, I decided to do some grinding and move to scouting. I also decided to get my picture taken by accident. In my travels, I singled out a few souls to claim at a later date. The first of these was Fire Breather Walt, who has 2 Magmar. The second Magmar has access to the move Feint Attack, useful. Up in the National Park, there's Pokefan William, who has a Raichu with Thunderbolt. The third is Psychic Mark, who has a Kadabra, which has Confusion. Though the latter two are special moves, if we need them in a pinch, we've got... Oh, and what often happens is, because I'm not checking the trainers on a route often, I'll sometimes run into a trainer who ends up having a move that might be useful. I have to find this out. So I reset. Then I realise I haven't saved in a while. Either way, we've leveled up to 31, and now we have a free sketch slot. It's time for youngster Ian and his Mankey. Because we don't want to defeat the Mankey, we have to spam Hypnosis for a while until we eventually miss and Mankey uses Low Kick. Another one in the bag.
Your Pokemon's
soul is mine.
Now at level 31, we're ready for Whitney. Despite having Low Kick, even Clefairy is a pain. Its Attract keeps immobilizing Smeargle like a lovesick puppy. The next time, we do a little better. We kick off the battle with Hypnosis instead of Low Kick, which will do less damage. We use Quick Attack to KO the Clefairy. When Miltank rolls out, we use Low Kick and maybe do about a third of its HP. Good enough. We keep sweeping the leg on the Miltank, and in between Stomp or the occasional Milk Drink, it can't do very much until it's defeated. We have Ecruteak up next. Because HeartGold is based on the Crystal version of Gen 2, it means that the rival fight in the Burn Tower is now mandatory. I decided to give it a go at my current level of 32 with no effective moves against Ghost Pokemon. Of course, as is tradition, we get cursed by Ghastly. I don't even bother going for a second round because I know there's XP out there. However, my mind is already on which move Smeargle should be aiming for next. Based on the experiences of my previous run, Chuck and his gym have the potential to cause a lot of problems. While you can avoid the majority, if not all, of the trainers in Sandwood Gym in this version of the game, we kind of want the XP and see how our moves will perform against fighting types. We could get Confusion, but after seeing Ember's performance, I'm not holding out too much hope for it, and we're not going to see a decent physical psychic move for, well, a long time. For now, I continue to Olivine to climb the lighthouse. We haven't even defeated the rival and haven't beaten Morty, so even thinking about Siamwood is out of the question for now. I level up some more and return to the burned rival. At level 37, I'm more relying on Hypnosis to proc than I am trying to outlevel the problem. Thankfully, against the Ghastly it does, it then stays asleep while we use Ember a few times. Then for Bayleaf, we're aiming for the same strat. Because Bayleaf likes to poison us, I equipped a berry to negate at least the first one. Though we do come oh so close to knocking Bayleaf out, it just manages to hang on and we get into a back and forth of Ember and Synthesis. It even poisons us along the way. Eventually, it goes down. At 52 HP, we have 2 Pokemon left. Ember against the Magnemite does over half, which is as good as we're going to get. Though we tank a hit in the process, we've made it through to the Zubat on 19 HP with poison damage on the way. Poison takes us down to 6 HP, and unless there is some miracle, we're not winning. The Pokegods abide, and we win. Morty's gym, in theory, should be easy enough. There's not a lot the Pokemon in it can do against us because of our normal typing. However, we're not exactly a powerhouse. I did at one point through the gym deliberate on sketching Sucker Punch from the Haunter, but that ultimately passed. You can't just think about the utility for the next gym leader, but the encounters beyond that. The first time tangling with Morty, things start off well enough. Against Ghastly, we can put it to sleep and hit it with Ember. Even though it eventually awakes and gets its super potion, I'd rather Morty waste them on scrubs than Gengar. For Haunter, we attempt to do the same, but it gives us a taste of our own medicine. Our dreams get eaten and we're eventually knocked out. Rather than prolonging things, I level up Smeargle to 41 to get that sweet sketch slot. I have my sights set on the Magmar with Feint Attack. Though it does take a few tries to eventually get Magmar to use Feint Attack, in the end it's ours, and another soul. This time, the battle is night and day. Feint Attack, being physical, leans, however slightly, to our advantage and is capable of one-shotting, or in Gengar's case two-shotting, all of Morty's Pokemon. For most people, after Morty, you're more than likely to head to Cianwood because you get the useful Fly HM, and Chuck's Pokemon are generally lower level than Pryce and Jasmine. However, for Smeargle, much like in the last run, this is a no-go. Smeargle is normal type, and even though we're able to defeat one of the trainers we face, Double Kick is doing far too much damage. Chances are Chuck's Pokemon will do a fair bit more and we don't lose anything from coming back after gaining a few levels. While figuring this out, I decided to check out Suicune to the north of Cianwood. Upon encountering the rare mon, you'll start a battle against Usain. It was in this battle I found out that his Electrode has Thunder. Thinking I might need it later, I reset. Then I realised I hadn't saved in a while. Either way, I chose to save the battle just in case we need the move later. I also keep in mind it's not worth getting it now because we still need a special based water attack to most effectively defeat Jasmine's Steelix. Just as it was in my previous run, Bubble Beam is the best we're getting. Thankfully, you can learn it from Wild Tentacruel fairly easily, so the focus now is getting the next instance of Sketch. While in Cianwood, I grabbed the secret potion and eventually headed back to Olivine. At level 45 and without a water move, we've still just got low kick. I decided to give Jasmine a go. I found out pretty swiftly that we've got no chance right now. Even though we could grab a berry for paralysis, it's just not worth the effort when we're not effectively reaching Steelix. A source of hassle-free XP right now is dealing with the rockets in Mahogany Town. Previously, I'd gone and grabbed Bubble Beam, but that was at a time when low kick was enough to knock the Magnemites out. This is probably one of the most significant divergences in the run so far. But I decided to bring the Red Gyarados on board, so that's something. In the Rocket Hideout during my minimum battles run, I tend to avoid as many battles as possible by switching off the computer, but we need all the XP we can get. Smeargle being in the quick level up category definitely helps with the run, but there's something soul crushing about watching it level up only to receive like a +1 stat point in anything. Improving Smeargle's stats is like trying to flick a pebble up Everest. While I did buff its IVs through the wonders of technology, I haven't been too precious about EV distribution because you're so focused on out-leveling threats rather than molding to specific stats. For Pryce himself, I try at level 51 with Quick Attack, Feint Attack, Low Kick, and having replaced Ember, I think with Sketch in preparation to get a water move. For Seal, we're relying on Quick Attack to do the heavy lifting, and aside from Seal regularly using Rest to regain its HP, it's mostly knocked out without too much fuss. Piloswine's out next, and it's in these occasions that Low Kick starts showing its worth. Due to Piloswine's typing, we barely take any damage on the road to putting it down. Finally, Dugong, we keep sweeping that leg until it's defeated. Before grabbing a water move, I do try Jasmine once again. With only low kick and no Ember, we're doing well over half damage but still getting paralyzed. I could mess about with berries, but it's so convoluted in this version. The easiest way is smashing rocks in somewhere like Cianwood for hours on end. And oh boy, if you love hot, rock-breaking action, believe me, we've got that coming. Anything before that would be spoiling you. To cool off, we return to Cianwood. We're at a good enough level to reap the XP rewards from the trainers in the gym. I even decided to give Chuck a go because I really hate surfing everywhere. At level 52, Primate isn't too much of a problem. You can take it out in 3 quick attacks if it doesn't get within healing range. Poliwrath, however, is the real blocker. Against Poliwrath, it's not like the battle is insurmountable, it's just a bit tedious. Despite mentally checking out in the middle of battle, the seed of an idea had begun to sprout, but it wouldn't be fully realised just yet. The battle with Poliwrath tends to revolve around it wanting to put you to sleep so that it can then use Focus Punch. It's pretty much a death sentence for Smeargle, but it doesn't take long to turn things around. We still use Quick Attack against Primeape and even get Chuck to use a Hyper Potion on it. A few turns later, we get through the first battle unscathed. Now for Poliwrath. It doesn't really matter the outcome, we win eventually. Poliwrath was determined to keep spamming Focus Punch and generally being ineffective. That thought from before comes back to my mind. Ultimately, I decide to reset. We need a decent water move that we may well end up using later, so why not try for the most powerful one we currently have access to? And that move is Surf. I probably should have done it in my previous run, but we can just sketch Poliwrath Surf, so I go back and do just that. With the move learned, I try to repeat my previous winning battle, but it becomes pretty apparent that it was a fluke. Seems like we'll still be surfing for a while yet. Another thing to note is that we are at a higher level than I was in my previous run, in that we were around the mid 40s by the time we managed to beat Jasmine. Now we've had no choice but to smash through that, partly because we needed sketch, but mainly because Smeargle sucks. In spite of Smeargle's awfulness, we do much better against Jasmine now that we have Surf. At level 52, we can start pummeling the Magnemites, even though we're getting paralysed along the way. I had thought we'd need to grab a berry if we wanted to survive, but apparently not. Even when we're up against Steelix, Surf does well over half. Steelix then chooses to use Sandstorm. Jasmine decides to use a Hyper Potion, and despite Steelix getting off an Iron Tail as pretty pathetic damage, in the end, we knock it out. I'm not determined to beat Chuck and get Fly. Well, it's not like we have much choice anyway. Level 53 still ain't cutting it, so I decide to farm some Tentacruel outside of Siamwood. By the end of the game, because before you defeat Clair, farming spots are terrible, I would have massacred dozens of Tentacruel. At level 34, I take another run at Chuck. For Primeape, things stay the same with Quick Attack. For Poliwrath, it's not like we've suddenly gotten some decent moves, so simply focus on using Quick Attack. We seem to get pretty lucky with Chuck this time around and eventually defeat him. In retrospect, perhaps it would have been better grabbing Thunder because it would have been decently effective against both the Steelix and the Poliwrath, but here we are on our way to deal with the Rockets and Goldenrod. There's not much to say about this part. It was long and tedious in Gen 2 and that's not really changed a great deal. The rival gave me a bit of trouble, again because of Meganium, but it just required some more Tentacruel farming. With that done, we have Clair next. In my previous run, I'd ended up teaching Thunderbolt to Smeargle because I thought it'd be handy for the Elite Four. Doing so ended up causing Clair to be a major pain. This time around, I have just the thing to deal with a Dragonair. In Ice Path, you can encounter a Jinx. In Gen 2, Jinx learns Ice Punch at level 25, and all the Jinx there had a max level of 24. What's changed as the gens progressed is that at least in Gen 4, Jinx learns Ice Punch at level 18. At 75 base power and physical, it's about the best ice move Smeargle has access to. With that in mind, we claim another soul to sketch. Now we're ready to face Clair. And when we faced Clair, I realised I'd made a mistake. Clair's team has changed. I'd forgotten that. Now she has a Gyarados. And we have nothing effective against this thing. I try pathetically to use Ice Punch or Feint Attack, but it's not working. It's at this point I start to worry more than usual. A separate worry had moved in, alongside the other worries of the economy, global warming, the encroaching prospect of death, the ravenous capitalist system, giving us an eternal physical body. It was a worry that we're running out of sketch slots for Smeargle, and we've technically just got a few sketch slots remaining. How are we expected to tackle the Elite Four? Not even mentioning Red. However, as I mentioned before, in Gen 4, we have the Move Deleter and the Move Rememberer. With this, as long as we have Heart Scales, which I'll cover later, we can easily replace Smeargle's moves. So, back to Gyarados. We have an easy fix for that, that'll come in handy later to boot. U-Sign, his Electrode, and Thunder. There was a Heart Scale we grabbed on the route towards Union Cave, it's under the bridge. Electrode is then kind enough to use Thunder. Then we must first participate in the ritual of the Rock Breaking Ritual. To do this, we travel to Siamwood, head to the north, and begin smashing rocks outside of someone's house. We do this because we're looking for a red shard, to give to the shard guy in Violet City, to get a cherry berry for the paralysis. Now, even with Thunder, we're not guaranteed victory. While we can one-shot Gyarados with Thunder, when Dragonair comes out, Ice Punch ends up being a two-shot, but that's what the berry was for. Despite defeating it, the next Pokemon, Kingdra, is still as much as a pain as it was in Gen 2. Thunder already has lower accuracy, and Kingdra's lower smokescreen is as strong as ever. Pair that with Hydro Pump doing some decent damage, and Smeargle is not for long for this world. However, it's not going to be impossible. Soon, the pendulum of luck swings in our favour. Gyarados is out and we get off a successful Thunder to knock it out. We already know what Dragonair is going to do, so can simply let the Berry do the work and get into Ice Punches to win. For Kingdra, we'll always need a bit of luck. We get it in the form of a crit Thunder, forcing Kingdra to use its Berry. Despite us then getting hit with Smokescreen, we're able to get off another Thunder, which also ends up paralysing Kingdra. I was expecting a potion that didn't arrive, now we just have to hit it with Thunder once again. We do, which just leaves us with Clair's final Dragonair. I'm expecting the same formula as before to work, 2 Ice Punches. While of course we get paralysed, we've got more than enough HP to tank a few paralysis if we have to, but we don't and we defeat Clair. Now, what I like most about the remakes, among lots of things, is the fact that the Kimono Sisters are battled in succession. Great for casual playthroughs, not so great when you want to go fast and your Pokemon is trash. At level 65, we're having a hard time because we're just not bulky enough to survive several rounds against different Pokemon, especially when they're as naturally bulky as the evolutions. The battles themselves aren't exactly worth going over, except for the fact that I had to gain 3 extra levels in order to just make it to the end. Either way, it doesn't bode particularly well for the Elite Four, and bigger questions are starting to crop up. If I'm forced to be almost double the level of the Pokemon I'm facing, how exactly are we going to deal with the Elite Four? How are we supposed to defeat Red, whose Pokemon are in the 80s? A problem for another time. For now, after defeating the Kimono Sisters, we're railroaded into dealing with the tower with the big bird at the end. And like this tower, I don't know, I'm not just in the mood for it. I'm not even going to use Ho-Oh and I'm forced to hop over platforms. I just let me go and get dunked on by the Elite Four so I know how much work I've got to do. Either way, out of mutual respect, I decided to capture Ho-Oh for the flex of having it in my party. I did consider grabbing some of its moves, but its fire moves aren't really going to help me out with any of the challenges that lay ahead. I battle all the trainers I can on the way up to Victory Road. We do have the rival encounter in the cave, but again, he's not worth talking about. I certainly had my revenge on him from beating me at the beginning of the game though. Now for some context, when attempting this run in gold, I was level 69 nice. I rolled into that Elite Four with Thunderbolt, Sketch, Low Kick and Tackle. Simpler times. Now we're level 72 with Ice Punch, Thunder, Low Kick and that Sketch slot. What level will I have to be to do this? And I'm not talking save between Elite Four do this, I'm talking consistent, we can do this without saving. We'll answer that soon enough. For Will, we have some decent moves. Ice Punch can, of course, be used against his level 40 Xatu. It can nearly knock the Xatu out. More often than not, when not frozen, it'll use Psychic. Jink will also come out next. The problem here is that Low Kick isn't great. It does less than half HP damage to Jinx, and Jinx most often retaliates with Lovely Kiss, putting us to sleep. A Berry isn't going to make this any easier in the long run, making Jinx a 2-shot would. With several failed attempts under my belt, I decide to gain another level and then come back. In between this period, I also use Sketch to gain Psychic from Xatu, intending to use it on a few Pokemon. At level 73, we're eventually able to get past Jinx. Executor can tank an Ice Punch, but it does well over half. Executor will then pretty much always use Reflect after that to increase its team's defenses, however that's pretty manageable. When Slowbro gets sent out, it's not too much of a problem. At our current level, Thunder can nearly KO it. Then it usually queues up Curse as its attack. Despite this causing Will to use a potion on the Slowbro, the rest of the battle with it is fairly trivial considering what we have to contend with. For the final Xatu, we rely on the same tactic of Ice Punch, and that's Will. There's still a lot of inconsistency and luck involved, however. Koga is, well, he's kind of meh. His first Pokemon, the Ariados, can easily be one-shot with Psychic. Fortress is a little more annoying. It's not that it can do much damage outside of Explosion, it's just bulky. Not only that, our best move against it, Thunder, often gets blocked because Fortress loves using Protect to waste our PP. But with it down, we get Muck next. We can rely on Psychic to do the heavy lifting once again. A couple of those and we can defeat it. Crobat is a little more annoying. I've got to give it to Smeargle managing to outspeed the thing. For it, you can just rely on Ice Punch to knock it out. And then for Koga's final Pokemon Venomoth, Ice Punch or Psychic will get the job done. However, I was never really worried about Koga. He's the Bruno of Gen 2. It's Bruno, the Agatha of Gen 2 that I fear. All his Pokemon except Hitmontop and Onix have a distinct advantage against us. For Hitmontop, you can mostly rely on Psychic to get by. Sometimes it'll dig, which is annoying, but it doesn't cause too much damage. However, even taking a little damage is too much all things considered. Hitmonlee often doesn't know what it wants to do. Sometimes it'll go for Swagger, sometimes it'll use Focus Energy, sometimes it even decides to go for an effective move like High Jump Kick. However, it's often not too much trouble. It's the next Pokemon which blocks us, the Machamp. Not only is Psychic doing over half damage just sometimes, Machamp has a berry, then it often retaliates with Revenge. At our level, that's a one-shot. Despite trying a few times, this is basically where our run ended for now. Even on the occasions we make it past Machamp, there's still Pokemon left. If we take a hit from Machamp, you get Hitmonchan coming in, or Onix, and you're just not surviving. The only thing we can do is level up some more. In my previous run, I ended up using the more ineffective Victory Road Cave grinding strat, which was tedious. Now I just decide to just keep going through the Elite Four again and again and again to reach some indeterminate level. For some context, I beat the Elite Four in Pokemon Gold with the Smeargle that was level 80. I'm not sure that's going to work out this time around. During my hour-long grind session, I do decide to make use of leveling up by opening a new sketch slot. Low Kick served as well previously, that move helped me beat Red. It's not as great this time around, so I decided to learn High Jump Kick from Hitmonlee in order to make Jinx a little more consistent. A natural result of this much grinding is that slowly we start getting more consistency. What used to be 2 shots gradually turns into a 1 shot. But the rate at which this happens is glacial, especially when each level up gives you like a stat point. The very first time we actually make it past Bruno is at level 89. For Hitmontop, Psychic is almost a one-shot but not quite. We end up getting hit with Dig, taking us down to 173 HP. Though Bruno uses a full restore, our speed allows us to then hit Hitmontop with 2 Ice Punches and knock it out. Next, for Hitmonlee, we're still in the frustrating position of nearly knocking it out with Psychic. However, it uses Focus Energy instead. Fine by us. I'm still not sure what's going to happen with Machamp. I reckon Retaliate could knock us out, but we never find out because our Psychic crits. At this amount of HP, we may just have it. For Onix, we use Ice Punch and get the Clutch Freeze. Now we can KO it at our leisure. Finally, for Hitmonchan, we still rely on Psychic to knock it out. It just takes a few turns because Bruno decides to use a full restore on it. For Karen, I don't know, we have some decent counters to a Pokemon, but that Umbreon I'm sure is annoying and bulky. When we use High Jump Kick against Umbreon, it almost knocks it out. It then gets off a Sand Attack. I know a full resource coming, so I go for an Ice Punch because I'm hoping I can do a bit of damage so High Jump Kick can then KO it. But we miss. While we do get off the second Ice Punch, things go downhill pretty quickly. We just can't hit. And every time we miss with High Jump Kick, we're taking crash damage. Now I have saved here. In my mind, trying to go through the Elite Four with just a Smeargle was difficult enough, so I didn't want to make life more difficult in an already frustrating run. I fight Karen again. We're still not one-shotting Umbreon. However, we have prompted Karen to use a full restore, which means we get 2 clean hits. Our first one with Ice Punch gets a crit, which means that our second is able to finish the job. With that out of the way, Gengar is out next. We have Psychic for that. Again, we're in a position of just not making that range. Despite that, we're normal type, so there's not much to fear. Likewise, her Houndoom, though an awesome Pokemon, has pretty terrible defense and can be one-shot with a well-placed High Jump Kick. Murkrow is pretty pathetic and can be KO'd with just a single Ice Punch. With that, we're on Karen's final Pokemon, Vileplume. Just like the Murkrow, it goes down in a single hit. With that, we only have Lance left. Lance's team is obviously pretty formidable. Gyarados, not so much. We still have Thunder and it still goes down in 1 hit, just like Clair's. It's the Dragonites that will be causing us the most problems. At our level, with Gyarados' Intimidate, we're not making the ranges on them. Despite managing to make it past the first Dragonite and onto the next, we of course soon get hit by Thunder Wave. We're now slower than his Pokemon and they can still put on the hurt despite us being nearly twice their level. With us often missing and Dragonite using Dragon Rush, it's pretty clear we're not long for this world. Though we do get past the Dragonites to Charizard, Paralysis combined with Thunder's low accuracy is a one-way ticket to the Pokemon Center. At this level, I reckon we could beat Lance if we save between members of the Elite Four. Machamp is still an unknown, Karen's still an unknown. Yeah, we could equip a Berry for Paralysis to deal with Thunder Wave, but we'd still get paralyzed because we're not making the ranges. It just didn't feel pure. And Smeargle, I believe in him. He could do it without saving. He just need to level up some more. He'd need to be level 99. The difference over 20 levels makes is quite large, as you might expect. Against Will, we can now one-shot Xatu without question. Jinx, likewise, will go down to just 1 High Jump Kick. 1 Ice Punch will take out the Executor. Then it's 1 Thunder for Slowbro. Finally, for Xatu number 2, it's 1 Ice Punch. Koga is simply more consistent now. As I did before, Ariados can be defeated with just Psychic. For Fortress, despite it getting off a Protect, our second Thunder connects and knocks it out. Muck unfortunately won't be a one-shot in our state, but it never really causes an issue. Crobat, on the other hand, is a one-shot with Ice Punch. Likewise, the Venomoth is still just out of reach but can be taken down without too much hassle. Now Bruno, we've eliminated the possibility of Hitmontop being in range, and it's the same story with Hitmonlee, thanks for high jump kick by the way. Except that I found out it made more sense to KO it with Ice Punch and it's more consistent. Now while Psychic won't KO Machamp, it's not too much of an issue because we'll be left on just enough health to be able to tank a move from Onix. None of our moves will be a one shot against it. We just have to not be on too low HP for Hitmonchan so it doesn't use Bullet Punch. If that plays out, one Psychic will do the job. I do opt to use the Max Elixir on Smeargle before facing Karen to replenish our PP. Unlike our previous battles, at this level, High Jump Kick is a one shot. We can then easily take care of Gengar, reaching the milestone of level 100 in the process. Houndoom is KO'd by High Jump Kick, Murkrow still just needs one Ice Punch, and finally Karen's Vileplume obviously gets the same treatment. Before facing Lance, I use the final Max Ether, so we're good on the Ice Punch front. I keep the Nevermelt Ice equipped because that's more important than curing paralysis. If we do it right, we don't even have to worry about that. When Gyarados is out, we still have Thunder and it's still not an issue. Now when we face Dragonite and use Ice Punch, we've eliminated that range. This means all the other Dragonite won't pose a threat. We're easily able to knock out both Dragonites, leaving us with just 2 Pokemon left. For Charizard, just like Gyarados, Thunder is our best move and a one-shot. Finally, and most impressively, when Aerodactyl is sent out, it manages to tank our Ice Punch, and we somehow outspeed it. While it gets off a move and causes a bit of damage, we then get trapped in this back and forth where Lance proceeds to keep chucking full restores into Aerodactyl's jaws in a futile attempt to save it. In the end, however, it's not enough. We defeat Lance, meaning we've conquered the Elite Four. Now we're expected to take on Kanto and Red, whose Pokemon are double that of the Elite Four. So how exactly are we going to do that? None of the Kanto gym leaders are worth talking about, to be honest. We're at level 100. We're stuck with our current moves for the most part. Misty, Sabrina, Erica, Blaine, Surge, Janine, they all just take a bit of time but offer no major resistances thanks to our decent enough move coverage. Blue, however, is a problem. In my previous run, Smeargle was level 85. Now, we're obviously level 100. Blue's always going to be a tough battle because of his diverse range of Pokemon. Of his team of Exeggutor, Rhydon, Machamp, Gyarados, Arcanine and Pidgeot, only Gyarados is technically free, if Thunder hits. Our problems with Blue begin with his Pokemon Exeggutor. This thing has Trick Room, which makes it so that the slowest Pokemon now goes first. Seeing as though Smeargle only really has speed working to its advantage, getting hit by this is a no-go. And Exeggutor, 95% of the time, will use this move. It then likes to follow up with Hypnosis, which will, on most occasions, put us to sleep. We could equip a berry to mitigate this, but that slot needs to be saved for another item. If you get hit with Trick Room, you might as well reset because the rest of the battle will be a wash. You ain't surviving. On the occasions you manage to make it past Exeggutor, you then have Machamp to deal with. Machamp's ability No Guard makes it so that both the opponents and its moves will always hit, and Machamp has Dynamic Punch. Getting hit by that move is a big no-no, and it will go for Dynamic Punch 99% of the time. The only way to combat the damage in a situation where I can't one-shot it is to have a Chopper Berry equipped. Even then, we're still taking quite the hit. Now I could have gone and got better moves. I could have grabbed Hypnosis or something, but I was too stubborn for that, and it ties into some later stuff too. But anyway, let's say you somehow get past the Machamp. You'll get Arcanine next. If your health's too low from Dynamic Punch, it'll go for Extreme Speed and instantly knock you out. If your health's somehow higher, then it'll go for Flare Blitz. If that doesn't outright knock you out, you can either get burned or it'll follow up with Extreme Speed and you're done. Then, if you somehow make it past Arcanine, Rhydon's out next. And that thing is so bulky that even having a super effective physical move against it isn't going to cut it. It will always knock you out. This was the only time I was prepared to grab a new move, because after doing the calculations, it wasn't happening. One of the best special water moves I have available is still Bubble Beam. There may have been Scald too somewhere. anything above that was either physical, which won't help us, or just not available. I did go and grab Bubble Beam from a Tentacruel, but was determined to just leave it at that. This battle is possible, it just takes time. A successful battle with Exeggutor always starts with Smeargle getting off Ice Punch and proccing a Freeze. This means we get no Trick Room and can KO it in 2 hits. Against the Machamp, I had leftovers instead of the Chople Berry, but Machamp ends up using Stone Edge. Unbelievable. So we use another Psychic to knock it out. When Arcanine is sent out, we immediately use Bubble Beam, but as you can see, it's just not going over half HP. Arcanine then uses Roar, but that's okay because we won't attack, we'll just switch the Pokemon back. When we do, Smeargle's then hit with Extreme Speed, and then after using another Bubble Beam, leaving Arcanine nearly knocked out, we get hit with Flare Blitz and we get burned, but Arcanine is knocked out from the recall damage. However, we're only focused on special moves, so we should be good. We just have to survive the burn. I'm not sure if leftovers will be enough though. Pryce then levels up a million times. Against Rhydon, Bubble Beam is a one-shot. For Gyarados, it's free as long as Thunder hits, which it does. Now we're just left with Blue's final Pokemon, Pidgeot, and we're at 29 HP. We use another Thunder, and though it does well over half, Pidgeot has a berry to gain back some health. We do get the paralysis though. We're now on 12 HP. Thunder has to hit. It does, and Blue is defeated. And that was tough. However, it didn't feel like a clean victory. That bit with Roar and Pryce, it just wasn't sitting right with me. So I reset. I took all the Pokemon out of my party except for just Smeargle and went at it again. And oh my god, did it take a bunch of time. We got there though. For Exeggutor, the same thing happened with Freeze to make it free. For Machamp, I paused for a bunch of time. I can't remember why, but we did get a crit with Psychic, which was nice. For Arcanine, we can use Bubble Beam, tank a Flare Blitz, and then use another Bubble Beam. We can then easily one-shot Rhydon with Bubble Beam, then one-shot Gyarados with Thunder. Finally, for Pidgeot, we should be fine as long as we get the 2 hits with Thunder. We do, meaning that we've managed to beat Blue again. Finally, we've just got Red. Let's give him a go. We're at level 100. We've got Ice Punch, we've got Psychic, we've got Thunder, we've got Bubble Beam. I think we may have a shot. We outspeed the Pikachu, cool. Pikachu uses Volt Tackle, one shot. Yikes. Well, maybe with a bit of persistence we can make it through. Absolutely not. Even in the rare occasion Red changes Pokemon, he'll send out Blastoise, who has Focus Punch, and that will annihilate us. The thing about this battle is that it's not a case of having the right super effective moves to win. One-shotting with these moves is out of the question. It just cannot be done with this Smeargle. Well, maybe with any Smeargle. Not only that, Smeargle doesn't have the survivability to go rounds with all these heavy hitters. Leftovers can mitigate the hail damage. Getting a move like Sunny Day isn't worth sacrificing the move slot for. We need to think of some other approaches. We could look to buff Smeargle stats in some way. We could get Curse from Ghastly. You could get Hypnosis too. Then you'd probably want a move like Rest or Recover, along with a normal attacking move that isn't Return. Yeah, it's a possibility maybe, but I don't want to go that route. Smeargle can learn pretty much any move in the game. Surely we wouldn't want to rely on a moveset that can be mimicked with other Pokemon. Surely there is some foolproof combo out there. Well, there is. And this whole thing can be absolutely trivialized. The first part is totally erasing all of Smeargle's moves. We can do this by heading to the move deleter in Blackthorn. But then we need to relearn Sketch. I spoke earlier about some hot rock breaking action, and this is where it comes into play. We need 2 heart scales. Like before, we have to travel to Siamwood to get them. It took forever. Well, like an hour, but we got them. Along with a bunch of shards too, and so many Krabby. But we can then get the 3rd and final heart scale from Vermilion just by the boat. With that, we can then relearn our first Sketch. The moves we need are located in 2 areas, totaling 3 Pokemon. The first location is Cerulean Cave. We only get access to this place after having beaten Kanto's gym leaders. The first Pokemon we're looking for in this cave is Parasect. Why Parasect? Well, in Gen 4, at level 17, Parasect learns Spore. As many people know, this is a 100% accurate move that puts an opponent to sleep. To get Parasect to use it can be a bit of a pain, plus you need a berry to immediately wake up. However, it's not long before we've gotten our first move. The second move, conveniently enough, is also located within Cerulean Cave. This one comes from Magneton, because at level 27 it learns the move Lock On, which ensures the next attack won't miss. By now, you may know where we're going with this. Our final location is the Seafoam Islands. Here, we have to travel to the lowest basement and run around until we find a Dugong. Now, the battle with Dugong is a pain because it refuses to use the move we need, so I'm forced to just cycle through a ton of Pokemon. Eventually, Dugong uses the move we need, Sheer Cold. Sheer Cold, for all intents and purposes, is a one-hit KO. However, in Gens 3 to 4, its accuracy increases depending on how high your level is to your opponent's level. But now that we have Lock On, we don't have to worry about any of that. All that's left is to fight Red and use a few PP-ups. The battle with Red goes like this. You have the leftovers equipped to not have to worry about Hail. Then, because we outspeed every Pokemon, we go Spore, Lock On, Sheer Cold. And we simply have to do that for every single one of Red's Pokemon. Even though Spore means Pokemon can wake up, that doesn't happen. It's just an absolute massacre. Smeargle tears through every one of Red's team with impunity. He can't be stopped. And in the end, Smeargle is victorious. That was an extremely fun run, if sometimes frustrating. It required a bunch more thought and move switching than my Gen 2 run, and we simply didn't have any one move that could carry us through the game. I do, however, think I could have done some better planning with the moves that I chose and when I got them. And I know it could have been easier if we relied on Start's moves more. I just don't think that would have been quite as fun. I'm interested to see how Smeargle would do in later gens in a run like this, though it still suck, but you know, it'd be fun. But hey, maybe you could have made the run even easier. Feel free to let me know. If you have an idea for an interesting run in the same style, let me know. And if you want to like or subscribe, go for it. Until next time, have a good one.